You are charged with 17 counts of premeditated murder.
Cowering in court, 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz faces a judge for the heinous crimes he's accused of, murdering 17 former classmates and teachers and wounding many others.
It's going to take a lot of time to sift through what's true, what's accurate, and what's not.
The answers many seek won't come easily. What would motivate murder like this? Why would somebody be so callous? When did the deadly decision come?
Right now is going to be like the toughest part, just finding out why this happened, and hopefully we can make a change. That way it can just stop happening.
Now is the time for Parkland, Florida to grieve and to remember the young people cut down before having the chance to experience life's potential.
They were worried about a pimple. Someone comes in and starts shooting. They shouldn't have to worry about being in a war zone.
Honor a teacher and a football coach who acted as human shields, ultimately giving his life to save his students. And to comfort one another, to stand together, to put their arms around each other, and pray for light into darkness they never imagined they'd face. Fox 5 News Edge tonight. I'm Tom Haynes, and we're live in Parkland, Florida, scene of one of the worst mass shootings in United States history. Here's Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, about 1,000 yards behind me, scene of the massacre that happened not even 48 hours ago. 17 people slaughtered and more than a dozen injured here, and it is still a scene of utter grief, shock, and sadness. Tonight, hundreds of people gathered for a candlelight vigil. Students, parents, and community members in this tight-knit community of Portland. They all began a moment of silence by praying and coming together. Some held flowers. Others carried signs talking about the need for stiffer gun control. The suspect, Nicholas Cruz, carried an AR-15 into this school when he opened fire, according to police. And at one point, the crowd was chanting, "No more guns." We are learning more tonight about the suspect and his bizarre past. He appeared in court today briefly before a judge. The only words he spoke was his name. He's now charged with 17 counts of murder as this investigation gets underway.
He's sad, he's mournful, he's remorseful. He is fully aware of what is going on, and he's just a broken human being.
The Parkland community in mourning, gathering Thursday evening to remember the lives lost. This after 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz makes his first court appearance Thursday, charged with 17 counts of premeditated murder. Cruz, a former student, taking an Uber to school, entering with the duffel bag and backpack just before dismissal time. He proceeded to set off the fire alarm to lure students out of their classrooms before using his AR-15 to open fire on students and teachers. According to the Broward County Sheriff, Cruz was only in the school for about 7 minutes before fleeing the scene.
The suspect crossed fields and ran west, along with others who were fleeing, and tried to mix in with the group that were running away, fearing for their lives.
The shooter then went to a Walmart store, bought a drink at a Subway, and then continued to a nearby McDonald's. Soon after, he was detained by an officer from the Coconut Creek Police Department, and we're learning more about the shooter's troubled past. He lost both of his adoptive parents, his mother dying in November, and in September, FBI officials received a tip about an ominous comment posted on YouTube in which a person named Nicholas Cruz said, quote, "I'm going to be a professional school shooter."
No additional information was found to positively identify the person who posted this comment.
We arrived here in Parkland this morning. We've been out and about in the community today, talking to students and parents alike. The grief here is palpable. It's extraordinary, and there is still a sense of disbelief about what happened here less than 48 hours ago. So in addition to that prayer vigil that you just saw tonight, in which several lighted balloons were released into the sky in memory of the victims who lost their lives behind me, there was a prayer service that happened this morning, and it is so important as part of the grieving process for this tight-knit community, these students and their parents, to come together and begin to grieve about what happened.
She was supposed to be safe. My job is to protect my children.
One night after the massacre at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, a grieving community comes together to try to begin to heal.
We came to the vigil to pay our respects, obviously, because we're all hurting very badly. In these times we forget that we are a community, and so this brings us together.
Parkland, Florida, where the shooting happened, is a close-knit community, and last year was voted the safest in the state. The people who live here now finding all of it difficult to reconcile.
I don't know, it's very confusing, you know. It's all emotions, really, confusion, scared, you know, mad, upset, all that comes into play.
We don't even believe that this is a thing that could happen. I don't think that we figured at this point that at any moment we could be attacked.
Those are lighted balloons off in the distant sky that were just released by students and parents and community members here in Parkland, Florida. The grieving process is going to take a long time, but folks who I spoke to at this vigil tonight say this is a good starting place for that to begin. Prayers and togetherness are what's needed now, making services like this one so important.
Just to see everyone come out together, pray together, and just be unified as one. Multiple schools also. It's a blessing to see it.
But human nature is real, and so fear of sending children back to class in the wake of the nation's third worst school massacre is pervasive among both parents and students.
We passed by this school when it just started, and I told my son, you could be one of them.
Are you afraid to go into a school building now? Does it? Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
So much sadness, so much grief among these students and their parents, but extraordinary courage in the middle of it all as you listen to them talk about their feelings and what happened in their own school less than 48 hours ago. This is still an active investigation. The scene in the parking lot here at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School is the same as it was on the day of that fateful shooting. There are cars in the parking lot that were there that day that haven't been moved. There are book bags still strewn about as investigators begin to comb through this scene and begin the tedious task of gathering evidence. Today, the Broward County Sheriff, Scott Israel, held a news conference, and we just learned for the first time the names of the 17 victims.
I wanted to honor the deceased victims of this horrific killing. I'm going to do my best to pronounce the names accurately. Please forgive me if I don't pronounce the names exactly how the families do, but I thought it's very important. I want to pay homage to these families and to the victims. Carmen Shentrup, Meadow Pollock, Peter Wang, Nicholas Dworet, Christopher Hickson, my very, very, very special friend who I'll miss, Aaron Feiss, Luke Hoyer, Alana Petty, Jamie Gutenberg, Martin Duque Anguiano, Alyssa Al-Hadef, Helena Ramsey, Scott Beagle, Joaquin Oliver, Carol Loughran, Gina Montalto, and Alexander Schachter. May they rest in peace, and may God comfort their families.
Broward County Sheriff Scott Israel emotional as he read the names of the 17 victims that died here behind me in this school shooting. People know each other in this community. It's rare in Dade and Broward County, which were huge counties, to have a tight-knit community like this. And so it's no wonder that some of the students knew the suspect, Nicholas Cruz. They all know each other. And the same goes for the Broward County Sheriff, who is also intimately involved in Parkland. So let's talk about the victims. 14 people were injured in this shooting. One of the students suffered gunshot wounds, bullet piercings to her lungs, we understand, and her stomach. But Maddie Wilford survived the violence. She was one of those who made it. And tonight, people in Metro Atlanta who have ties to her family are praying for her recovery.
And Maddie Wilford's family, Tom, lives right here in the Metro. Her mother is from here. I'm told her grandparents rushed down to be with Maddie in Florida right now while she's recovering in the hospital. Maddie's mom went to Marietta High. Her classmates want people to know Hers is one of the dozens of families hurting from this tragedy who need your help and support.
The attention and focus needs to be put on these parents and the children who are victims of that shooter.
Poncho Wilson tells me by Google Duo, the Marietta community has been rocked by the tragedy in Parkland, Florida. He and other alumni of Marietta High saw this devastating Facebook update from classmate Missy Cantrell Wilford at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Her daughter was shot numerous times. Her doctors can't tell how many.
To see the kind of mother she's been, especially her daughter, has been pretty amazing.
He says Missy texted him Thursday afternoon as her daughter Maddie was going into her third surgery. In her post, now seen by thousands, she says she's grateful her daughter survived, but a bullet pierced her lung and another went through her stomach. She prays, God, give me the strength that I do not possess on my own.
I know if it was my baby, I wouldn't leave her side.
Robert Metters, who now teaches social studies at Marietta Middle School, says the class of '91 and fellow teachers who knew her are devastated and he wanted to help. A GoFundMe account to help Missy, Maddie, and the whole family has been shared more than 5,000 times.
Praying is one thing, and we've done a lot of that. But there was nothing else to do.
He said Missy's relayed the message. She's grateful for the support online and says he wanted people to know how the families of other students injured in the shooting need your support.
And it's not just Maddie. There's families all over South Florida, and there's families and friends all over this country that are hurting.
And I just got an update a few minutes ago from family friends. I'm told Maddie is recovering well from her third surgery. And we have that link to the GoFundMe page on our website, fox5atlanta.com. Back to you, Tom.
Well, we certainly wish Maddie well in her recovery, Jacqueline. Thanks. Back out live here in Parkland, Florida, the scene of the shooting. We just learned today that Nicholas Cruz, through his attorney, has been placed on suicide watch. That from his attorney. As I said, he's been booked into the Broward County Jail and charged with 17 counts of murder for the alleged shooting spree that happened behind me here at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. We're going to stay here throughout the night here on Fox 5 News Edge and have another live report coming up at the bottom of the hour. Meantime, there's lots of news happening back in our neck of the woods in Atlanta, and for that we send it to Fox 5 News anchor Sine Simpson, who's standing by live in the studio. Sine?
Thanks so much, Tom. Well, this deadly shooting has reignited the debate about tackling mental health and gun control. President Trump and lawmakers from all across the country are weighing in.
No parent should ever have to fear for their sons and daughters when they kiss them goodbye in the morning.
Strong words from President Trump as the nation mourns all those killed in Wednesday's Florida school shooting. The president pledging to make schools safer and tackle the issue of mental health, while also taking a moment to speak directly to America's children.
You have people who care about you, who love you, and who will do anything at all to protect you. If you need help, turn to a teacher, a family member, a local police officer, or a faith leader.
One topic the president did not specifically mention, gun control. The attack quickly prompting renewed debate on the matter. Democrats from around the country calling for action.
Children are dying in our schools, in our communities, on our streets. All this Congress has to say is, let's have a moment of silence.
House Speaker Paul Ryan, however, says people should think less about taking sides and more about coming together.
One thing we know is if there are early indications for mental illness, I think we probably have to do a better job of trying to make sure that people don't get slipped through the cracks.
Well, coming up on Fox 5 News Edge at 11, we'll hear from a group of friends who all managed to survive the shooting massacre unharmed. They'll recount those frightening moments inside the school when bullets started flying.